So if you want to make your food forest look like you care about it and like it's a planned system of some sort, it's a garden. I find that one of the best ways to do it is to make some meandering paths and then cut around the islands of growth that we have in here with a lawnmower. In the past, I've done this with a push lawnmower. My whole front yard in the North Florida Food Forest Project, I just let it grow up into grass and wildflowers and weeds and whatever the birds planted in between everything else. And at first it was just a whole bunch of grass and mess, and I cut some meandering pathways through the yard with the push mower, and suddenly it went from, oh, that guy doesn't take care of his yard, to, oh, it's a wildlife sanctuary with pretty little paths in it. It's just a little tweak, and it's actually a way to get out of having to mow all of your grass. It's no mow May, you know, like they say. So this lawnmower here is really a beater. We got it used from a lawn company, and it has some problems with it. It's currently running, but it hasn't been running for about the past 5 or 6 months. So the food forest just got crazy and overgrown, and that's fine. That's the way summer's like. But now that we've had our first couple of freezes and things are died back, I don't have pumpkin vines running through here and all that kind of thing. I'm coming in and I'm cutting some pathways that allow us to see the structure of the food forest again. And it's incredibly satisfying. Now, if you don't have a mower and you want to be kind of old school and green and sustainable and all that sort of thing, you can also do this with a scythe. And I have scythed pathways through before, but I'm not the greatest at scything, and I have this beater skag mower, so we just roll with it, literally. I have also just used a string trimmer when, you know, you've got your small pathways. You probably saw me doing that this summer when I was cutting pathways through here with a string trimmer that had a little metal blade on it, and we could cut all the brush and the dog fennel and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to cut everything in here because I want a lot of life to be able to come back. I want space for the fireflies and the predators and the overwintering insects, etc. But I also want access points through here, so as we come in and we throw down compost and mulch, and if I get some lime, I might throw it in here because we have pretty acid soil. It's just pulverized limestone. We can get in here and access it and walk through it, and it becomes more of a usable space where you're not going to get stickers in your socks and all that kind of stuff. So running through here with a mower, this is the way to make it look like you actually care. So I'm going to mow some more, and you can see what these paths look like after we have cut our way through, and you'll see how much space is actually left unmowed as well. And now we hope this thing starts up again. Sometimes it doesn't. Just like new.
I'm driving with the top down, baby. Rain won't stop me. I'm high on black coffee, baby. Your blues won't rock me. I'm playing low seat cone, baby. Some girls can't stop me. I'm cranking up the bass and baby, and you can't drop me. Ooh, sugar pie. Ooh, sugar pie. I'm gonna let my hair grow, baby. My boss can't stop me. I'm gonna take a payday loan to fight the commies. I'm heading to the drugstore, baby. Don't call your mommy. I'm gonna skip the ice cream, baby, and eat pastrami. Ooh, sugar pie.
Now Rachel says that this is just one giant excuse for me to do donuts in the yard. But no, this is extremely important food forest design. Actually, you know, if you're trying to lay out a food forest, and let's say you've got a bunch of grass and you just let it grow tall a bit, you can mow your way around and make different islands and shapes out there, and then build into the unmown areas. Like mow through, create your paths. Imagine what it would be like to be walking those pathways around mulberries and pears and blueberries or mangoes or whatever your climate permits. And you can kind of game it out a little bit, I guess, by doing that. As it is now, you can see what I'm doing here as I've been running the mower. I am recreating these little islands. Now, a lot of these things here, we've got our velvet beans climbing on top of a pomegranate here. You know, we've got some big Mexican sunflowers and a little palmetto and some other things. Some of these islands don't really have a lot in them yet, but they give me an idea. Now I could come in here and smash this down with some cardboard or chop it down, put some more plants in here. If I wanted to, I can mulch this area, but I have this width of path right now so we can access and get through. Everything doesn't just become a viney, thorny mess. And if we leave things alone here, we get a lot of the wild rambling blackberries, or dewberries, some people call them, just various rubus family thorns that will just take over and eat an area up. And so if I cut that and keep them out of the pathways, they don't become this tangly mess that tears your legs up when you walk through. Like you can see all these right here. I actually like these in my food forest. I like that we get berries off of them in the spring, and we've created a space for them to grow. I've got some of the thornless ones that we planted in here because the other ones did so well. So we get the big thornless blackberries later in the season, and then we get the little dewberries earlier in the season. But I have a lot of structure that becomes kind of hard to see if you don't mow it. You know, there's our plum, there's the black locust that's fixing nitrogen for it, there's the wax myrtle that's fixing nitrogen for it. You guys saw me earlier in the season chopping and dropping material down at the base of this. We've got some of our sugar cane right here. I've got some other thornless blackberries mixed in, and I can kind of walk around now and go, all right, I've got an island here and I've got an island here, and now it feels like these pieces are bite-sized. And if we come over here to the edge of the food forest where it's random junk in an old dead truck, you can see how, you know, this was the initial part of the food forest. This part is the part that we're building out to right now. And there's almost no support species or anything in here right now. There's just a couple of apples and a few persimmons like this. We just mow an island around this, and then we can start building into it and building it up and putting in our chop and drops, putting in our perennial vegetables or whatever else we want to do. We can manage it as heavily or as lightly as we want to, but we can also shoot all of the grass from the pathways over towards these. So the work that the grass and the weeds and the brambles and everything did to pull up nutrients through the year is now going onto these plants. Over here is an island that we established quite a while ago. This is our persimmon, which gave us 15 pounds of persimmons this year and something a little less than that last year. But we have cannas and gingers and other things that have frozen down around it. But this is an established island where I've even dropped chunks of log here to rot down and turn into soil to feed it. And it just gives you a spot to put things on and a place to build. It gives you a little bit of landscape structure where you go, oh, I could handle this in an afternoon or in an hour or two when I have time, instead of going, oh, what do I do in here? You kind of bite it up into pieces, give yourself some moving space, and you can just haul the stuff in here and throw it in as you have it. So you might say, okay, how am I actually supposed to do these paths? Like, what kind of a pattern am I supposed to make? How am I supposed to make more, some sort of order out of this? Well, I just kind of get on the mower and feel my way out. Feel what feels like it's a good access point. So if I'm getting on the mower and I'm going around, I might look and say, well, I've got one tree here, so I'm just going to mow around that tree. And I had this tree in here for a few years now. So I'm like, I never got around to putting a bigger island on it. I'll just mow up close to it for now. But if you see back here, I left a little spot for that little tree, for these blackberries, for this crepe myrtle that was already here that I grow yams on, and for that apricot that's right there. And I used to mow right through the middle here, but I kind of feel like this is a pretty good little island space, so I might as well just let it grow. I've got this little autumn olive right here that I put in this spring, and I could put some more here, or I could just say, you know what, I don't feel like dealing with this right now and it's getting overgrown, and I could just mow through there again and just leave this little tree out here as an orphan. But as the trees get bigger and they start to feel like they could connect into a guild, or an island as I like to call them, I just start to make an island. So I might start with one like this and say, okay, I've got this one tree and I don't feel like it fits anything. But probably this island will end up connecting into here. I might plant this area out sometime and just have my path go around it in a big one. Or I might connect this island with the loquat and the pineapple guava to this one and have like a long little island here. So long as I'm leaving enough space for pathways in the early parts of the system. So in the early stages of a food forest, you get a lot more light, and the pathways become places through the summer where you can run pumpkins and watermelons and vines or whatever else you want. You can even put garden beds out here or whatever because you've got lots of light. But over time it's going to start to close up the canopy, and you're not going to have to be mowing through it anymore. It's just going to be shaded out and not have that kind of a amount of work with the grass and stuff. The grass will start to kick back on you, unless you want to space it really wide and, you know, get lots of light in there and make more of a food savanna, which is totally fine too. The big point is that you're growing food and you're making ecosystems that work together instead of monocrops. So the maintenance of it, I don't even have to mow it. I could just probably trample the pads down if I wanted to, or machete my way through now and again and leave it really jungly and overgrown. But I like the structure that it gives us, and I like the access that it gives us. And if you have a mower, why not use it? That's what I feel like. And if you find this sort of thing helpful, you know, and you're in Florida, check out my book, Create Your Own Florida Food Forest, the great big book on making food forests in Florida. If you're not in Florida and you want to see more of my design and everything, you can join our school group. On School, I have a whole big multi-video series on how you can build your own food forest, just starting from scratch with a field and laying stuff out and just rolling with it. And I have a really low-key approach to designing food forests, and I think you'll enjoy that. I even tell you how to start a food forest when you don't hardly have any money at all, just from propagating your own plants. We go over some plant propagation and other things. But thanks for joining me today. I know I haven't been posting as much lately because we bought a store, Atmore Farm and Garden in Atmore, Alabama, and that's where a lot of my time has been consumed lately. But we're going to be doing more videos like this. I appreciate you all. Come and see us at the store if you're in town. And until next time, may your thumbs always be green.